We're going to do something that I don't think's ever been done before.
Never.
No,
In the history of ever.
I don't think so. We're going to do a tier list for headphone connectors.
Mm-hmm.
Who the hell would even think of doing
And we're
that?
going all the way back. As you can.
Yeah, back in the day. Yeah. So, yeah, actually on display, we've got some old headsets. What, that's a Telex, right? Is that a Telex? What's the name? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an old Telex. It's,
610.
that one has a 1/4-inch connector on it, so it's more new, probably from the 70s or something. This one's probably World War II vintage and actually has what's called a phone connector on there. I think it's a prelude to the 1/4-inch. It's got
Well, they look similar, yeah.
yeah,
It's a little
similar
weird
too.
looking, but it's a very similar version.
So back in the day, they had the old operators had cables with connectors like that for the patch panel they had in front of them. And, Jimmy would ring up the phone on one side, one end of
Yeah.
the
Whoa.
of the town, and she'd go, "Who do you want to talk to?" And she'd patch you in to the other side of the town.
What a maddening job, huh?
Oh my God!
Just
Can you
sitting
imagine
in
that?
front of just a million connectors.
Every call
all
had to
day.
go through an operator. Yeah. Weren't there rooms like switchboard? Anyway,
Well,
let's
yeah.
go. Let's
We'll get
onto
to
the
it.
tier list. Yeah,
Tier list.
Tier list.
So we'll start with the classic, the best connector ever, the 2.5 millimeter balanced.
Dun, 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 dun. I don't know if I'd call it the best.
It's not the
connector.
best connector
Yeah,
ever.
no.
No, I don't like this connector at all. It's too small. It's too hard to make it durable on both the cable and the jack on the device. But from a certain portability perspective, I guess it's kind of appreciable because
Compact.
very compact, lightweight. So from a consumer perspective, it's kind of nice and easy to use, but they're fragile. So personally, I don't like it. I put it like C tier. Now it's like a D tier connector, but it's C tier for me because it is balanced. It's sort of like the first of that sort of push moving towards balance, and it was made to be portable.
Yeah.
So it's like good intentions, but
Right.
the wrong connector, I think.
Well, the beauty of that connector was that the jack itself that would be in the device could be thin, as
Right.
thin as possible.
Right.
yeah.
And people don't realize, but when you're trying to make like an iPhone, when
Yeah.
you're trying to make something thin like that, the jack is huge. It's like
Relatively
it's
speaking.
Typically, yeah.
thick, it's chunky because it's not only the size of the hole, but you've got plastic and materials and contacts around that shape to make up the jack. So yeah, so like we found that out when making Diana, right? That even a 3.5 millimeter is kind of
It's kind of big.
Yeah.
yeah, so it was the beauty of that was that, which is why like companies like Astle and Kern used it for a long time. But yeah, the negatives are what you said. It's a pain in the ass to deal with. It breaks easy. It's difficult to solder too. So I'm with a C rating too.
C.
Yeah. Yep.
You too?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
All
All
right,
right.
we're even.
3.5 millimeter. The connector that pretty much everything has always had ever it seems. It's
Right.
on the, all your cheap headphones and stuff, 3.5
Didn't
millimeter.
the Sony Walkman have it?
Walkman start. Yeah, that
Yeah.
like made it like into like everybody used it.
Yeah, because it probably was 1/4 inch before that. Because most
Yeah,
receivers, even
receivers, yeah.
today,
Right.
still run quarter.
But yeah, for portable.
Portable, it's the only connector you see typically on budget-oriented type
Unbalanced
gear.
things, yeah.
Yeah. It used to be on phones before they got ripped off.
Oh right. Yeah.
There's still a few stragglers, but yeah.
So
the
for
most
most people, it's probably the most widespread connector by a large
It's a
margin.
sturdy and it's unbalanced, which is fine. It's pretty sturdy.
Pretty sturdy, a little bit bigger than the 2.5, and one less wire.
Yeah.
easily adaptable to 1/4 inch. So if you wanted
True.
to
Yeah.
plug it into a receiver,
Yeah,
or
like the
something.
world is full of 1/4 inch. I'm sorry, 3.5 millimeter to. We should call it a 6.3 millimeter.
yeah.
We call a 6.3 millimeter connector 1/4 inch in the U.S.
Yeah, sometimes.
No
The-
one even
the
knows
metric
nowadays what the
system,
hell a
that's
1/4
right.
inch is.
Yeah, that's right, the metric system. I don't really like any of these barrel connectors because from an assembly perspective, when you're heating up the end to solder the wire on or whatever, it's easy to melt the separators inside the barrel from the heat that gets transmitted into it.
Yeah,
You
there's
could
not a
damage
lot of
it.
material there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Metal.
and
so-
it's hard to physically make one of these connectors very
well,
good
you got to be
electrically.
good. You got to know how to solder well.
Usually what people
Yeah.
do is they do cold joints and tack it on very lightly
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that they don't risk wicking a lot of heat into it. And that works. But because of that, it's sort of like maybe like a B tier for me. And I think overall it's an A tier for functionality, but because of its implementation, it makes it a little harder to deal with. Maybe like a B.
Yeah, I'd say
Yeah,
it's
I'd say
between
B,
A and
yeah.
B.
Yeah, like it's a pretty
So
good
call it a B.
connector, but
Yeah.
4-pin XLR.
4-pin. Ooh, sturdy.
Yes, very sturdy.
Yeah, we got one over here. It's like a brick.
Can be too sturdy. Some
Can
of
murder
them
someone
lock
with it.
and then you
Yeah.
can trip over it.
The whole full-size XLR thing starts with 3-pin and goes up to, I don't know what, 6 or 7. So you could get,
Yeah.
it's the same plug shape,
Right.
just more
Different pin
pins.
counts.
Yeah.
And they're not interchangeable, of course. The 3 won't fit in a 4
Well, you
because
could kind of jam up.
If you push really
You
hard.
could do it. I wouldn't.
no,
I
you
wouldn't
can't.
I mean,
not,
you can.
Not you can't.
You physically can. I wouldn't recommend
But
it.
4-pin XLR, great connector electrically, very easy to solder and assemble, quite durable and robust, but it's heavy, it's big, so not useful for portable. I think electrically, without a doubt, S tier. Like in terms of just raw performance, I'm connecting to a desktop amp, thing's awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect in every way. The weight doesn't really matter.
Well, and that's when where you see 4 pins
mobile.
is on most desktops, and it's really become probably the most universal connector on the
Yeah.
desktop amp now.
Yeah.
And,
Full
you
size
know,
desktop. Yeah.
and the nice thing is it's fully balanced. So when you put a connector like that on a desktop, it's inherently balanced, and anyway.
There's good physical separation between the different conductors. So
Yeah.
if you have a big beefy cable,
Yeah.
it's easy to terminate.
Yeah, you can
It's
put
easy to
whatever
strain
wire
relief.
you
Yeah.
want it.
Multiple
Yeah.
conductors.
You can make it
Right.
very, very durable.
Like some of these cables are like 8 conductors, 16
Right.
conductors. You can't stick that in a 3.5. It just doesn't
No.
work.
Very
The cable's
tough.
physically bigger than the connector.
Not possible.
Yeah, you got this like
Yeah.
heat shrink abomination on the thing, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah, you need
not
to make
good.
like step downs and
Yeah.
But you don't need with that. Now, it is heavy, so maybe like A tier overall.
I'd say A, given
Well,
its
at a
functionality
desk-
for a desk.
at a
yeah.
desk. The
Yeah.
weight's not that important, but
Right, but mobile,
yeah,
not an
yeah,
option. Yeah, it's too
Very.
heavy.
And it is a sturdy connector.
Very.
Now, we'll skip over the 4.4.
Okay.
We'll go to the
Oh.
6.3 quarter
Quarter
inch.
6.3.
This is sort of like the second most common connector in headphones. It's been out for a long time.
Yes, it is.
Especially tube amps, old gear.
It's used
plenty
in
of stuff still
it's
has
used in
it.
pro audio.
So yeah,
A lot of pro audio uses quarter inch, both stereo and mono. This version we have here is the stereo version, so it's 3 conductors, but they make mono versions that are 2. And guitars
guitars.
use quarter inch.
That's right.
Has the same concerns I have with other barrel jacks like that. It is still electrically slightly problematic, but dramatically more durable than the smaller ones.
It could potentially short a jack out.
Yes.
But, if you're
when you're
plugging
pushing it
in.
in, it can temporarily.
Yeah.
And most
Yes.
of on the jack side, they're very not well built. They got like one little flying little lead that can get like
Sometimes they're real
corroded
floppy
and-
jacks,
yeah.
and you plug it in, they're kind of wiggly.
Yeah, wiggly.
Yeah, not the best. So
You may lose like the ground connection,
you
the
gotta
sleeve
give it-
connection
give it
over
a little
time.
wiggle.
and-
personally,
but usually
I
they're pretty good.
I'd put
Yeah.
this as like a C tier because it's pretty good, but it's so big. So like the efficiency of the
they're
connector
long,
for the
yeah.
size and the weight, it seems poor.
Yeah, but they are really robust. I mean, that's why pro uses them.
You could slam them
Yeah.
in
You know,
over and
when
over.
you
and
have
they're
like
gonna
50 or
tolerate it.
100 cables on a stage and everyone's walking and stepping on them and they're
Well, yeah.
slamming them into a travel into a big case to ship and
Right.
coming. I mean,
But
you're talking
for headphones,
over and over in terms of usage. Okay, but headphones,
Yeah.
I mean,
you're not just like jamming this thing in
I'd say
50,000 times
I'd
a
say
day or
if
something.
anything, it's a little antiquated compared to the newer 4-pin and the 4.4. But yeah, I'm gonna give it a B.
B.
Well,
Yeah.
because you can go the other way and turn it into a 3.5, right?
Sure.
But then it turns into like
Yeah, you don't really want to do
so
that.
you could do it.
You'll probably snap the 3.5.
yeah, but I wouldn't recommend doing it.
The
I
adapter.
could tolerate B. How about you on that?
Yeah, just due to its
And it's pro. Pro uses it all
shit,
the time.
use in
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
B.
everything.
Okay. Now we'll go on to a sort of an abomination, the dual mono, and this seems to be a quarter-inch variant, but it's been done in a few different senses.
Yeah.
I've seen 1/8 inch, I think even 2.5 millimeter.
Yeah, what they're doing is each jack has its own amp.
Right.
So technically it's a balanced amp.
Yeah.
it was in the
if you
early
look at it
days
that way.
before there were good balanced options because
Well, it's
all you
it's
really
a standard
had,
connector. Yeah.
right, the quarter-inch 4-pin is actually sort of newish, kind of. That didn't really exist for that long in the grand scheme of things. Dual mono was around sort of overlapping with that, but it seems like most people were using that because there wasn't a good, more portable friendly solution for balanced. I'd probably put this firmly in D tier.
Well, it's not that bad. It's a
Well, pretty much.
sturdy-
Because
it's kind of-
you
it's
can't just be
terrible.
like, oh, I'll casually plug it into some other
Oh,
thing.
you need this weird
You know, you
custom
can't really-
dual
All right,
mono.
I'll go with C, but you will find D. I'll
No,
do
it's
it.
going
I'm
in
going
D.
D.
It's
All right,
terrible.
all right, yeah.
Now we'll go over to a subset of this, the dual 3-pin XLR.
Ooh, the dual 3.
Oh, double rugged. Yeah, two
Right.
of them.
So it's a good connector. Nothing wrong with the 3-pin XLR or the 4-pin. However, 3-pin XLR isn't balanced, and this was before the 4-pin XLR was actually sort of like a thing in headphones. So it's kind of a weird use case. The only time I've really seen it used, for the most part, was the Woo monoblocks.
Yeah.
2 separate amps. Again, dual
Again, you kind of
cables.
had to.
Yeah.
There presumably were amplifiers other than that have used it, but
Yeah.
very
Well,
niche
since
use.
then, a lot of amps also, some amps give you the option
Yeah.
for dual 3 or 4-pin, which are both
yeah,
balanced.
who would really use
You know,
dual 3?
well, I don't know, but they do. I mean,
Right.
the Moon, the Sim Audio Moon 430,
Formula S.
Formula S has dual 3. There's a number of amps that
It does exist.
give you both.
I guess
and,
so,
You
yeah.
know, part of the reason is because a lot of people have upgraded cables that were dual 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, if you don't have it on your amp,
Well, yeah.
you got to buy
Yeah.
another cable.
There
or
was
you
a
don't buy
window
the
of
amp.
time where that was the option
Yeah.
for balance because it was sort of new. So, like, it's a good connector. Obviously, easy to terminate all the other things we spoke about before with that connector. But you need two of them. So unless you have two separate amps,
Yeah.
there's no reason to
Well,
have two.
that is the problem. It does limit you to amps that have
Right.
two dual
And it needs
threes.
to have it, of
I mean,
course.
you can adapt it to one 4-pin, but then you're talking about a
It's
really
big, clunky.
Yeah.
clunky. The
We used to do
clunkiest.
that with the
Yeah.
early 1266. We
Yeah.
included like this rocket ship connector cable
Right.
adapter thing that had
the
two.
deluxe version.
Yeah, because that was the reality of amplifiers
Yeah.
back then. That was the connectors they had.
Yeah.
But it is heavy.
Yeah.
Very
It was
heavy.
probably half a pound in XLRs.
Yeah.
I mean, because you've got two on the
Yeah.
cable end, two to the adapter,
Yeah.
and in one 4-pin.
And it's all
Right.
hanging off your amp.
Holy
Right.
crap.
It was
So
heavy.
it works, it's robust, it's reliable, but it's kind of like maybe a B tier because it's
Yeah.
clunky.
That's
it's
good.
It's got a badass factor to it.
Yeah.
Again,
But
it's cool to have two separate
very
cables
practical.
Not
going.
practical, no.
Yeah.
So,
You know
yeah.
where it would work? Remember that video we did where we were talking about if we had unlimited budget, we could make our own amplifier?
Yep.
And we decided we were going to make a building and an amplifier and run this,
Of course.
triple aught cable to it. For,
Would work there.
and it
yeah.
said, well, hell, if we're going to build one building, why not make two and have mono?
Two separate buildings.
That's where you need it.
Right.
That is
Short
a
of
good
that,
use case.
well,
You're going to run a dual 3 to that all day long.
these days, get the 4-pin.
RSA connector.
I forgot about that
Yeah,
one.
yeah. I think a lot of people.
I didn't forget about it.
Yeah.
This is the worst connector ever made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
Well,
headphone
We
use.
never used it.
We never
I
used
mean,
it.
we never made cables with it.
Yeah.
I hate it in every
Yeah.
way. I don't know if you
Yeah.
noticed that.
Yeah, no.
I don't like anything about it.
It is weird.
Yeah. And it's now not in anything. So
I know. I can't remember the company to use that.
Ray Samuels.
Yeah. Is he it? There was no.
Well, that's why it's called
what was the
RSA,
connect-
Ray
I wonder
Samuels
what the-
Audio.
Oh, so there
Yeah.
was. It
He
wasn't
didn't make the
used-
connector.
yeah,
I
right.
was
it's like a
wondering,
Nikon.
Where did
Yeah.
it come from?
Battery charger.
It was something like that.
Right,
it was
right.
something else.
It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
some connector that existed
Yeah.
that someone
I think you're
decided,
right.
presumably Ray Samuels,
been a
decided,
while.
Yeah.
hey, let's use this connector for balanced because there was no
Yeah.
portable friendly balanced connector. So like there's credit there.
Yeah.
There wasn't a connector
no
and he's like,
option.
hey, this is a connector that electrically is going to be compatible and
And it
work.
was available. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And presumably they were economically
Yeah,
viable
made
and
by
all
the
that.
millions already. You know.
Yeah. Cool.
So,
Well,
But
But-
everything about it is terrible.
yeah. Right. So
And it's a weird connector that nobody really used.
it was a band-aid of its time.
Yeah.
kind of. It was like early adopter kind of situation. You know.
So for me, this is an F tier.
All right.
We don't
Yeah.
have it on the list. You
That's
could sort
fine.
of imagine it being an F tier.
Bottom of
We'll
the
put it in
list.
D.
Because if you had it today,
but it's like a really low
there's
D.
nothing you can buy
Nothing
that
has
would,
it.
would have it. So
Yeah, it had a
would-
narrow window and it got
True.
thrown out.
You'd have to be using
Yep.
old stuff.
Now you need
There's
an
barely
adapter.
adapters even
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
thing.
Right.
You got to be
Or you have to
digging.
make one.
Make one.
Yeah.
Okay. Bottom of the list.
The phone plug, not
Sorry,
like your
Ray.
telephone. Yeah, I mean, it's
It is what it is.
independent of the dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he did make a badass amp back in
Yeah.
the day.
Actually, still,
Yes.
that's fun.
Still
But that
exists.
connector, no.
No. Yeah.
No.
What are you gonna do?
The phone plug. Not like the phone, like your cell phone, but like the phone
Yeah.
Yeah, this
phone
one.
plug.
Oh, the phone. Oh, the old.
Maybe they have a
phone.
different name for it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's basically like a
it's
quarter inch, but it's like bumpier.
Yeah.
So we got to put it in the same tier of its time. I mean, if you look
It
at
had a long
because
run.
it doesn't exist now, other than in,
Right.
on eBay sales, you could buy one plug, one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
NOS,
very
you know.
right. I mean, that plug is a NOS plug.
That's right.
Probably made in the 50s or 40s, and that we bought to put on the headphone because the headphone didn't even. Though when you get headsets like that back in the day, they had two wires coming out, or
Yes.
2 or 3 wires.
The
I don't-
good old
I think
days.
they're mono. They might be wired together. I don't remember. It's
I'm
a
not
stereo
sure.
plug.
Yeah.
But I don't remember how this thing's wired. Oh, it's wired however way you want to wire it.
Well, yeah.
But bottom line is, yeah, we actually bought that connector to go on there because it just had bare leads when I got the headset.
Apparently, that's how they did it.
Yeah.
And that connector's been around for a really long time.
Yeah. So I mean, it's
So
you
it
know,
has some
it's-
legacy. It obviously is very robust and reliable because it was made to just slam into patch panels.
Yeah, all day long.
All day.
Yeah.
So it's cool
It's
for
just
that
straight
purpose.
brass. I don't think they fancy gold plating. It was
No.
just going to wear off.
Yeah.
It was self-cleaning in that sense because
Right.
it was going in and out all the time.
Well, for that application, that connector is pretty well suited. And of course, it was made for that, so that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But for headphones,
Yeah, right. Since this is a headphone connector tier list,
that was just a connector that they had at the time that was working and used. They didn't develop it specifically, as far as my understanding, for personal, portable
Well, that
headphone use.
wasn't really even a thing.
It wasn't really a thing so much.
it was a headset connector.
Right.
Yeah. Now, maybe we're wrong about this, but that's my understanding of the
Me
situation.
too. Yeah, close
But
enough.
from today's perspective, you think it's a 1/4 inch and then it wouldn't work.
It doesn't
and
work.
then-
So
might work.
where do we put
I
that?
think
Jiggle
it
though?
would make contact.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I never tried it.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, because we were listening.
Well,
to
there's
it.
like
yeah.
those separators, and they look like bumpy.
It works. You might have to. Yeah,
You gotta
you're right.
really
It might not
push,
be.
maybe.
You might
Yeah.
not be exact. I think it's a little bit different length,
Little
but I think
jiggly.
it'll work. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so,
anyway, whatever.
not
A C,
great.
just because
Maybe a C.
as a legacy product.
Well, yeah.
It was fine.
It's
from,
terrible
even
for
from its
headphone
day.
use
Well,
today,
today,
in every
terrible.
way.
Well, you can't even get
But
it.
Yes.
it has a little culture to it, we'll say.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll put it in C.
Yeah, we don't have to fail it.
Historic relevance.
Yeah, right. They were everywhere. You think
Yeah.
about that. They were used everywhere. I think
At
they were
one
used
point,
in
yeah.
aircraft too.
Probably.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Something
In
like
fact,
that.
there are aircraft connectors which are considered headsets,
Right.
which you'll see on the screen here.
Presumably.
Yeah, presumably. And there's these are like current connectors. I think there's like 4 of them or something like
Oh.
that. Yeah.
We have this U174/U.
Oh, that's the aircraft one.
Is that the one?
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is.
I don't really know what it is. I just found it on
U174.
I just Googled it. Yeah, but it seems to be like one of the more popular ones.
Well, so that's for aircraft headsets.
Is it like a
so-
stubby version of a 1/4 inch or something?
yeah.
Nobody
it looks
knows.
Like, it looks like a big. You know what it is? It's a chubby 4.4 millimeter. I don't know the exact size of it. I don't know what 4.4 millimeter is the diameter of the plot.
Yeah.
So it's in between
That's like
a
a
1/4 inch
5.5
and a
or
4.4.
something. Yeah, it seems a little chubbier than that, but I think it's stuck. It's like a 4.4, so it's really
It looks
it's a nice
balanced,
connector.
though. It's got
I
four
think it is.
things.
Well, I think in aircraft they have talk too, so they got a
Oh,
mic.
Yeah.
So they need some
Well,
more.
how come we're using the 4.4 and not that connector?
Oh yeah.
Because that's connector
Yeah,
exists
it's already
question,
right?
existed.
Because Sony did a better job of it.
Maybe.
I don't know, but yeah, it's used. So
I'm unfamiliar with this
I
connector.
don't know. Yeah, we'll give it a B just because we don't use it. It's not used in our stuff, but it's a fine balance connector.
If you're a pilot,
yeah, right.
you know,
you probably plug in all.
Yeah,
know
it seems
about-
okay.
Yeah. So
We'll
that-
put it in B.
Yeah, just
I don't
because
know.
we don't know any better.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, B's good.
4.4,
okay.
the Pentacon
Ooh.
connector.
Yeah. Now that is pretty new.
Newish,
Well, relatively speaking.
but
Yeah.
we're
Compared
seeing
to the rest, yeah.
we're seeing sort of shockingly good adoption. Because initially it came out and people were like, whoa, what's that?
Yeah.
And then it started to hit the market. You started to see more and more stuff have it. And now it's almost becoming mandatory in a lot of gear. A lot of people are really asking for it. Anything that's newly designed, it's expected to be on it.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it's between that and the 4-pin. Those are the most popular currently.
Yep.
That we sell.
You look at the cables that go out the door for our headphones here, and
Yeah.
very common, 4.4.
4.4 is they're even using it on desktop amps, which
Right.
makes sense because if you already have a headphone
You don't
with a
need
4.4
adapt
cable, yeah, you don't need
need a
another
different
cable
cable.
or adapter.
Yeah.
But on that note, it is easy to adapt because it's a balanced connector.
Right.
Mhm.
It has 5 conductors.
Right.
5.
You could do you could do more than just headphones with that connector.
You could do balanced and ground.
yeah, and a
That's
microphone
amazing.
if you wanted to. If you really
Technically,
wanted to.
yeah.
Well, then you need like
Yeah,
something
so-
to plug it into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A balanced headset connector with a mic.
I said this before, but
maybe.
almost perfect.
Yeah.
It's like the right size, the right diameter, length, and stuff like that. It works very well. You got good electrical contact. It's relatively easy to solder and assemble and put wires into.
Very.
Because of its dimensions, it's not as big of a risk of melting the insulator inside the tip when you're soldering to it. So it's a good balance. Seems well
And
considered
the plug's
design.
thick enough where it's not going to snap.
Yeah,
It's
if you
sturdy.
hit it, you're not going to crack it off like
Yeah.
the 2.5.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, it's the perfect compromise. It's still a compromise, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's the perfect compromise between
It is.
desktop and portable.
The cool thing too, like I find that people are using it for, you can use it for inputs and outputs to amps. Like
Yeah.
because it has 5, it can accept 5 conductors. You could have a shielded ground to it too, which the
Right.
others, on a balanced, you
Well, yeah.
can't do
Oh
that.
no, I can't put it back.
You having a problem there?
Yeah. Where's it going on the list?
A.
A.
Oh, no, you have an S class?
Yeah, S, yeah.
Do we have S class?
Yeah, it's going
Okay,
S.
Yeah.
S.
Put it there.
Yeah.
S.
Highest level possible.
Yeah,
That's
pretty good.
That's a nice connector. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's better possible, but that is currently, I think, the best overall all around.
Well, especially
connector.
if you only want one cable.
Yeah, but you can. That's the really good thing about it. There's.
Yeah.
We talked about this before. There's little adapters. You could do the 4-pin
Yeah.
to the 4-pin XLR, convert it to the 4.4, and it's a pretty short connector. So you could just shove it into your desktop amp if it doesn't have a
Yeah,
4.4.
they make an XLR. It looks like an XLR,
Yeah.
but it's got a jack on the back to take your 4.4.
Yep.
It's pretty elegant.
Turns it into a 4-pin.
Right.
So it's great. Because it's a balanced connector, it'll go to any balanced adapter.
So you
Yeah.
could get that cable, make sure your portable stuff has it, and then your desktop stuff, you could get the adapter that doesn't has it, or a lot of newer stuff is coming with 4.4.
And you can adapt to 4.4 balanced on a headphone. You can adapt it down to single-ended too. No problem doing that. So you could
Yes.
you could convert it to a quarter with a short
Well, yeah.
cable.
We should mention that
You know,
because somebody
you
did
can
bring that up.
convert it.
Something I haven't considered. You could convert a balanced headphone to single-ended.
Yes.
So you
Right.
can get a 4.4
it's okay
cable.
going that way.
Right.
The other way you can't
Yeah,
do.
right.
Balanced amplifier, you cannot convert to single-ended
can't
unless
take-
it has a default output for
You
that. It's
can't
configured
take
for that.
4 pins out of a headphone amp and dumb it down to 3.
Right.
The
Well,
amp will not like you for that.
You physically can, but yeah.
You may see smoke.
It needs to be made to tolerate that,
Yeah.
or have a headphone output specifically designed
Yeah,
for
when you
that.
see 4 connectors coming in an amp, you use 4 connectors.
But the headphone,
But the headphone doesn't care.
Yeah.
you could change
It's
it.
not putting
Yep.
out any power. Or anything. So anyway, yeah. Bottom line is that's a great connector.
Pretty much buy that for pretty much everything.
That or a 4-pin for desktops.
Yeah.
You know.
The 4-pin's a little better for desktop, but
And you know
It's
we
heavier.
covered this in the video prior to this, but you know if you got to look at the amp you're looking at, you
Well,
have to. Does it have these connections?
Right.
Well, yeah, start
You know,
there.
Yeah. Start with what you're going to plug it into, and then that's the connector you choose. But those would be the 2 go-tos for me, for sure. Well, all of us.
Mhm.
this was pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, if we could just get that RSA and the dual mono into like an F tier and have a little separation,
Yeah.
because I don't even think they should be in D.
Why don't we just stamp it with an F?
Yeah, he'll fix that.
Or how about a fail? You know, remember the old
Extra
rubber
fail.
stamps? You remember
Super
rubber stamps? Fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Figure
I guess
out
it
the
did.
technology.
It did, though.
So on that note, I hope everyone enjoyed. By the way, since we're at the end of the video, no one's here watching anyway.
Yep.
This pair of Pioneer headphone here, what is it? SE50s.
Yep.
When I was a little kid, my uncle had a set of these.
Not that one.
Not this
One
one,
like that.
but yeah. But I found this one a couple years ago on eBay, and it's like it's unbelievable that you can get a headphone. In fact, there's the receipt in the box.
Oh, yeah.
This guy, whatever the guy's name's on the receipt, he bought this probably from a local audio store somewhere. I don't know. where it was.
Earl.
Yeah, Earl. Yeah, he bought it in 1972. What did he pay for it?
$34.50.
$34.50.
Yep.
Yeah.
March 30th, 1972.
Yeah. So anyway, when I saw this, it was like mint.
Yeah.
So I had to have it because it's like that was basically my first headphone. You know, even though I didn't own it, but it was
Well,
my first headphone.
First
And
headphone
The
experience.
cool thing about this Pioneer was that each cup had an independent volume control on it.
Yeah.
So you could sit there and go and just like vary the volume on each ear to
Yeah, I mean,
each track. And
I don't know why you'd want to do that.
I don't know, but it was kind of cool to like be able to play with it when you were a kid. To like,
guess,
go,
yeah.
I wonder what it sounds like this. So
Doesn't seem like you need that, but
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Well, back in the day, receivers had balance control, so really you could have
Yeah.
used that.
Yeah.
But you had to be at the receiver.
Oh.
Here you could have a long 20-foot, the curly cube
Yeah, yeah,
cable
yeah.
extension cord and sit on the other end of the room and still adjust the volume.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Maybe we should make a headphone like that.
Hmm.
Did you ever think to put a volume control on a no?
No.
Come on.
Just get a remote at that point if you want to.
Yeah, that's right. Right now, they didn't have remotes back then.
Yeah.
When you plug that in your Japanese-made Pioneer receiver from the early 70s, right?
Wood
Yeah.
panels.
When you plugged it, you didn't have, it didn't come with a remote, nor could you retrofit it to it.
Yeah, well, and stuff that did have remotes back then, they were wired remotes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
So,
And they had big knobs for the tuners that you could, with flywheels, when you spun them, it spun the tuner, and the needle would go.
whacking to the other
If you
side.
spun it, was like,
Okay, so this concludes our tier list video.
Right.
it didn't make noise as much.
Oh,
That's it. They're leaving now.
Oh yeah, right. Everyone's gone. Now everyone's gone for sure. Thanks everybody for watching. Take care of yourselves. Thanks.